he was never, he's not a leftist. He wasn't a moderate. So what he's going to be saying in this video that we a lot, some of it that we're going to agree with, but understand this guy is completely a establishment person. And I'm going to read this tweet by Glenn Greenwald that calls him out. Yeah, and I love Glenn's analysis of a lot of this stuff. Now, this is why one of the great things about Glenn that he's been doing lately, he's been having to call out a lot of these conservatives. And Piers Morgan is another one. You spoke to it earlier, how he's now disgusted how all these conservatives have thrown free speech under the bus when it comes to Israel. But that's beside the point. Let me read this one.
CJ, I don't know if you know what he said. I don't know if you saw the interview that he gave with Jimmy not too long ago, but he was talking about, he said he feels it's his obligation to go after these right-wingers more than anyone else right now, because he said that he viewed going after the Democrat Party as his #1 party under the Trump years, because he saw how Democrats was going backwards on like the CIA and war and liberties. So now he's like, bro, I went from that. Now what I'm doing right now, my main thing is calling out these Republican hypocrites, which I'm glad that he's doing this angle, because like you say, he was in solidarity with people. Jesse Waters was one guy he name dropped in particular, where he's like, bro, Jesse Waters used to invite me on all the time. He didn't invite me on one time since October 7th. And that's definitely not a coincidence. But sorry, I just want to add to your little preface there. Go ahead,
that is classic. But here's Glenn. He says people like Piers Morgan, who spent 2 months justifying Israel's war in Gaza, now feels queasy about it and declare it must end. And to that point, there's a lot of people. Joy-Ann Reid is another one. I think Chris Hayes is another one, where they're sort of, now their conscience has been woken up by 20,000 dead people, and knowing that history is not going to reflect kind on people who was siding with Israel with 20,000 dead Palestinians. So they're sort of having to create record of at least criticize them, so they can at least go back. No, I said this. When we can clearly pick up, pull up content that shows him saying the opposite, much more content. But go ahead, Nick, before I play the video.
I love how we switch roles sometimes, or sometimes I will have a gentle take, and sometimes CJ will have a hard take, right? I'm not saying you're not wrong. I'm not pushing back on your take, but I have a slightly different, probably more harsh version of that, where I don't think it's conscious at all. Well, you know what Piers Morgan saw? Piers Morgan saw every single country in the UN vote for the ceasefire except the United States, including his own country. You guys know the UK was against the United States? So I want to be clear. I'm not saying your take is wrong, CJ, but I give these people
I'm giving them too much credit. I do that. No, because you've said this, not on this topic, but like I do, because I want to, I don't know, it's something in me that's, I don't want to believe that you're an evil person. I want to believe that you're not this rotten. You get what I'm saying? That's what I want. Yeah. So it's
the only reason I say that is because, fam, Piers Morgan has been a journalist, a prominent journalist, for around 30 to 40 years. You guys understand? Piers Morgan was a thing ever since I was a thing. There was never a point I was alive where Piers Morgan wasn't a thing. So you guys think that this guy who has a career that as long as my life don't know what the fuck is going on in Israel? A guy who talked to countless people, including pro-Palestinian activists that I've seen kill it on this show. And you guys think he just now, oh my God, it's not real revelation. No, motherfucker. He saw everyone in the world come out against Israel. He sees the United States being the only one who's blocking Israel. And he don't know how this conflict will end, but he do know one thing. He do know that history is going to judge these motherfuckers horrible. Oh, yeah. And he don't want to go down with the ship. So that's my take. I agree with everything mostly CJ was saying. I give a harsher interpretation of what they're. That's the only difference.
Absolutely, which I love. Which I love. But go ahead, Rome, if you're gonna say
he's an evil racist man. He's an evil man, evil at his core. And some people are like that. My father was an evil man, and it's not hard to see the evil in a person when it's a part of you. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm the fucking goodest guy, but if I can smell the blood in the water, nigga, I'm pretty sure these niggas can too.
Yeah,
this rhetoric that Piers Morgan has been pushing for years have gotten people killed. And this is why we warned you guys at RBN that your words are weapons. Your words are weapons. So be clear on what you say. And if you stand on something, stand on that shit. Don't go flippy floppy when the times get tough and everybody start looking at you like, what you got to say now? Like, oh, no, I didn't really mean that. Like, no. Your words are weapons. And you see how when everybody went out, they wanted to go vote for Joe Biden. Some of them same people that stood in those lines caught COVID and died for a war criminal. What would you think the people that died voting for Joe Biden would say if they would have seen what's going down in Palestine today?
Nope. Yeah. All right. I think I'd rather play the video and I'll read a little bit more of what Glenn says because the video kind of says it all. But let's listen to Piers. I can't see you guys, so let me know if you want to stop.
London, welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Throughout the long and deadly history of Israel's wars with Palestine, it's usually fallen to Israel's friends to tell them when it's time to stop. That time may be fast approaching again, even as Israel insists it needs more time to eradicate Hamas. It can only have itself to blame. This weekend, the IDF admitted to killing 3 of its own hostages in Gaza. The men were waving a white flag of surrender. They'd used scraps of food to scrawl SOS, desperately pleading for help, regardless of whether they were Israeli or Palestinian.
So, you know, this is actually pretty disgusting. I've seen someone make this point. I wish I can give them credit. I don't remember their name. I really wish I can give them credit because they're the one who pointed this out. They had a viral tweet where they mentioned this. They're disgusting because he didn't turn on Israel because 20,000 dead Palestinians. They turned on Israel the second that Israel was caught killing Israeli hostages. And the second that they was caught killing Israeli hostages, that's when they like, oh, wait, we can't justify this. The fuck? But anyway, I wish I could give credit to whoever made that. It was a great tweet where they point that out. But go ahead, we can continue.
That is true because he uses the murder of those hostages, and he also used an example. What's the other example? Because what do we care about? Israelis and Christians. Because he brings up the two girls that were killed, but they're Christians. That's why he's bringing them up. So
they also mentioned this.
Great point.
Yeah.
So let's listen.
Palestinian, there's no justification under international law for killing them. It's a clear breach of the rules of engagement. What does that tragedy tell us about the way Israeli soldiers are treating Palestinian civilians? How seriously should we now take Israel's...
We've been saying this the entire time. What is he talking about? Like, people have been saying this is exactly going on, but until their sort of tactics kill Israelis, now you understand that we must be questioning Israel. It's so disgusting.
This what makes these people so evil because they can just wipe their face and just be like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm moving on.
No.
Next story, guys. Like,
ain't no blood in my hands. So, like, goddamn.
Insistence is doing everything it can to keep innocent people alive. In a separate incident, 2 innocent women were reportedly shot dead by sniper fire at a Catholic church in Gaza. One of them was leaving the church shelter to go to the toilet. Cardinal Vincent Nichols, the Archbishop of Westminster, one of Britain's most senior spiritual leaders, was scathing.
To Nick's point, Britain voted in the UN Security Council, and also this, because I think he said this is an archbishop, one of the top archbishops in Britain, coming out talking about the murder of these 2 Christian women.
It's certainly a cold-blooded killing.
The Israeli Defense Force says didn't happen, wasn't them?
Well, I think that's hard to believe, frankly, because the people in Gaza and the Cardinal Archbishop of Jerusalem, they're not given to tell lies.
So you don't believe the Israeli Defense Force?
No, I don't.
So because an archbishop in Britain says, I don't believe the IDF in Israel, now it's okay to question what Israel is saying.
Dude, that is so fucked. I didn't know that detail. So that's why. So Piers is not even remotely giving a fuck about the Palestinians. He's just following the direction of his religion and of these people. And her question was done. You don't believe the IDF? Nigga, she should be barred from journalism. I'm usually anti-censorship, but I am pro-censorship when it comes to anyone who's asking stupid-ass questions like that. But let's continue. That's why I'm a hypocrite. I'm for censoring that dumb reporter.
What would they say? I mean, what
point went even further. He said that what is.
Go ahead.
I mean, what did they say? They didn't refuse that they had shot them, the woman and that child. They didn't refuse it at all. So what you mean believe? Yeah, I believe that they are murderers. What the hell?
Yeah, I got the video. I think I'm not gonna bring it up, but there is a short clip, it's like a 30-second clip where a guy from the Israel, I forget what his title, and he says, Rome, on video, he says, no, we didn't do that. That's made up. But now I saw another tweet. I don't know how real this is. So I'm just saying it's a tweet. I'm not reporting as it's news, but I saw another one where actually, no, let me not say that just because I don't have the receipt to say that. So let me just play this. I don't want to say that without the receipt.
What Israel's doing in Gaza now constitutes terrorism.
Unarmed civilians are being bombed and shot at, and this has even happened inside the Holy Family Parish complex, where there are no terrorists but families, children, and sick people with disabilities, nuns. Some say it's terrorism, it's war. Yes, it is war, it is terrorism.
The British government is
now understand, people. If
the world's biggest pedophile,
if those two people that were shot were not Christians, would the Pope and the Archbishop be even speaking on it if they were not Christian Catholics? And being that they're Christian Catholics, this was a fatal flaw in Israel's sort of approach. Like for you to be so indiscriminate that you don't care that you're killing Christians or even Catholics, like this church belongs to the Catholic Church, like that wouldn't get back to them. That tells you how like they don't care about what anybody says. And I don't know if this Nick a result of the Likud party taking over? Like, is it because it's this new group that they're now because what 2014 when they had this last time when Israel went into Gaza, it was only like not even 2,000 people dead. Because of this new party, they've 10 times that, Nick, to 20,000. Go ahead.
So there was leaked messages from high-level Israeli officials that expose how the IDF has a strategy of destruction in Gaza to show the United States that international law is not real. Like, and it's one of the things they're not talking about in public. Obviously, they won't. But internal memos, they want massive destruction to show the United States, like, hey, man, if we need to take out Iran, if we need to do some shit in Syria to go after our enemies there, we can just fucking do whatever we want. This whole thing about international law is not real. So it's actually about sending that message and sending a message that Israel that is determined to take out their enemy, there is no force that will stop them, including the Catholic Church, which is why I saw there's not many of them, but I saw like people like Jake Shields. I saw Tucker, and I've seen Vivek make this argument too, like the right-wing argument on why are we supporting these people bombing Christians? Like the same way they made in Ukraine, they made the same argument in Gaza. And to me, that inherently doesn't make sense, how people will not wake up to the fact that these Zionists are bombing Christians. But let's think about how wacky our reality is right now. We have evangelical Christians calling anti-Zionist Jewish people anti-Semitic for not supporting Zionism, and these same Christians are calling other Christians anti-Semitic because they don't support Jews bombing churches. Let's think about that. You guys see how weird that is? That's the reality that we are in. That's the reality that the ADL want to manufacture. Both parties in the corporate media are more than happy to go along, but we can continue to clip.
Yeah, and then we're not going to watch all of it, but there's another 30 seconds. He makes another point I just want to make sure is included in the clip, and then we can close the segment and read. We got a lot of super chats, so we'll read some super chats.
Yeah.
And is shifting his position too. Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron, in a joint statement with his German counterpart, said he backs a sustainable ceasefire and said that too many civilians are being killed. Ben Wallace, the influential former defense secretary, said Benjamin Netanyahu thinks a killing rage will rectify matters, and he's very wrong. His methods will not solve the problem. In fact, I believe his tactics will fuel the conflict for another 50 years. His actions are radicalizing Muslim youth across the globe. I think he's right. All this after President Biden accused Israel of indiscriminate bombing, the starkest warning yet that America's backing is not unconditional. Well, news reports about the war in Gaza today will state that 18,000 Palestinians have been killed so far, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. And the key point about that often quoted sentence is not the debate about whether Hamas exaggerates those figures, is that Hamas is still in charge and able to release them as official numbers. After 2 months of war, endless atrocities, and the full might of Israel's army unleashed on this tiny strip of land, the very people they're supposed to be eradicating are still firmly in power. Only about 20% of Hamas terrorists so far, that's even if you accept.
That's another thing that Piers Morgan objects to as well. He would be okay with 20,000 dead Palestinian children if Hamas was weakened. So he also said that Israel failed their military objective. This is not empathy at all. But let's continue. I don't want to be too long. I know you want to finish. I'll let the clip finish before I finish my thought.
Yeah. Let's play a few more seconds. Let me see.
IDF figures on this have been killed. This is the part, 80% remain alive and fighting. Well, most civilized countries and decent people back Israel's fundamental right to exist and indeed its duty to defend itself.
You hear that? Most civilized people and decent. That's him saying white people without using the word white people.
Dude, that's so foul. That's so foul. I know exactly what you're saying. That's so fucking foul.
Yeah.
He said that. Wow.
That's what he's saying. Because what do white people think of all indigenous people that were not civilized? Savage. That's what they think. But go ahead, Nick.
So like, I'm not really impressed. Like, I'm happy in general to see the tide is turning. Like, we shouldn't be praising Piers Morgan for this at all because he's morally disgusting and he's an opportunist. But it's a good gauge of the Overton window because he's a centrist. Yes. So if he's doing it, it shows that the Overton window is moving, which is good. Now, let's look at his logic, which shows the faulty logic of the Zionists in the first place. Because he says, well, Israel indiscriminately killing civilians leads to the rise of Hamas. So that's why he's opposed that. Okay. Why does Hamas exist in the first place, Piers? Let's continue to work backwards. So he says we shouldn't be bombing Palestinians because that will create Hamas. Why Hamas exist then? You know why? Because 2022 was one of the deadliest years in Palestinian history. That's why. Because the war didn't start in October 7th, despite what you've been telling your audience, Piers. So if you guys now acknowledge that bombing Palestinians create Hamas, that means there's something wrong with the greater overall existence of Israel if they can only exist by bombing Palestinians. Do you guys think I'm smart? I'll say above average. But I'm a college dropout that do not have the experience that these people do. I am not anything special. I just read a lot, fam. I'm just an average fucking Joe who is decent at math. You know what I mean? These people can go through these same critical thought processes that I'm leading you to. They choose not to. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's my view. But that's my last thought on the segment.
Yeah. Let me just read. Let me just read. Let me just read Glenn's tweet. It says the Israelis was crystal clear from the start about what they intended to do in Gaza. It was politically hard on October 10th to object when it mattered. That's when it matters, what he's saying. And then Glenn goes on to say, I suppose it's better for influential people. It's sort of what you're saying here, Nick. I suppose it's better for influential figures to now declare Israel has crossed every moral line and thus must stop. But the Israelis have been very clear that they don't care about disapproval from Western liberals as long as U.S. money and arms keep flowing in, which it is. And this is the last part of his tweet, of his thread. One thing I really believe Piers Morgan deserves credit for is how committed he is in airing genuine pro-Palestinian voices, not newly J Street types, but hardcore Israel critics, along with many Israel supporters. It is very rare in mainstream media. Now, he did have that comedian on that went kind of hard and he went viral. Okay. So, yeah, to that point, Sabby says that's right. He spewed nonsense for weeks. And then Glenn responds to Sabby by saying, Chris Hayes hilariously did the same thing similarly this week. He acted as if he wasn't some sort of Walter Cronkite figure making a major address to the nation by announcing the attack on Gaza must end. he has offered J Street type critiques. They love to wait for political safety. That is absolute for politically safety. That means when it's safe, and you alluded to this earlier, Nick, like when the establishment give you the green light, that's when you come out and say something. My final word. Go ahead, Rome, if you have something.
Yeah, I just want to say something about him saying, 80% of Hamas is still fighting or active or whatnot. Like that says a lot, and it says that your army is weak, that it's built is full of cowards, because there's no way you guys have all this money, all this technology, and all this foreign aid, foreign weapons, drones, and Hamas is still at 80%. That doesn't make any sense at all. So what are you guys doing with the bombs that we send over there? Are you ethnic cleansing with them, or are you targeting Hamas? See, and this is where we already know that IDF and all the motherfuckers popped up Hamas. We know that they was in cahoots, and this is their Tom and Jerry. It's the bread and butter. This is the bread and butter, because as long as they can stay alive and have keep enough of Hamas leadership alive, they can always have a reason to go out and kill them people. They will always have a reason.